Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is going to be the Microsoft Teams 101 Learn the Basics webinar, just so you know you're in the right place. Can everybody look on their screen? You should have a couple of controls. One of them is Q&A, one of them's chat. Can you let me know that you see my screen and that you can hear me? And then we'll get started because those are two important things. Just chat it in the Q&A. I think we're good, but there we go. Okay, looks like we're good. All right, well, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. It looks like we got a mix of some of our clients and some new people. So welcome clients, glad to have you. And welcome everybody who's not a client. I think you're gonna benefit from this as well. So this isn't gonna be a technical demo. Those are super boring and we don't have time for that. This is more like a business owner's high level. This is what Team's all about webinar. To get you started in just the basics. 'Cause a lot of people have, you know, with this remote working and everything, they've tried different things. They've tried Slack. You may have heard about Slack. You may have heard about Teams. You may have even tried to use Teams, but then got confused and then bailed out because you couldn't figure out how to use it. Or in some cases, you may not even have access to load and use Teams in your organization. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. So who am I? This is what I normally look like when I'm not in COVID lockdown. It's quite different lately, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. I'm Mario DiMarcantonio. I'm the CEO of Progressive IT Solutions. I founded the company in 2007. We are a Dallas area IT, cybersecurity, and compliance consulting firm here in Dallas, and we work with private equity, venture capital, mid-sized companies, small companies, and that's what we've been doing for a long time. So this is not my first rodeo. I've got professional certifications and I've been married for about 30 years, have two kids. One's out of the house, one's in the house and in high school right now. So there's a little background on me. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about what Teams is, Microsoft Teams. I keep saying Teams, and you'll learn why here in a second. It's called Microsoft Teams. It's also called Teams. Like the computer industry, it doesn't have enough acronyms. We're going to talk about what it's used for. We're going to talk about competing products because there's a lot of confusion about, you know, how to do video calls, how to chat with your team, how to share files and things like that. And this should all make sense when we're done. We're going to learn the basics about Teams. We're going to give you a couple of resources to get more help, to learn more features. And I'm sure you went right to the free money when you looked at this slide. It's not really money, but it's kind of, so just don't get too excited. And we're going to talk in the Q&A if you guys have any questions. And that's a good point in this discussion. If you have questions, go ahead and post them as we're going along in the Q&A. And then at the end, I'm going to cover some of those and try to answer as many as I can. This is a 30-minute presentation, so I want to respect your time. I'm not sure how many we'll be able to answer. What we're not going to cover today, we're not going to get into all the tech details. You're welcome. We're not going to talk about advanced types of team setups. There's a lot you can do with it. It's a huge product. We're going to talk about the very basics. We're not going to get into detail about every other product and how it works and every comparison. And we're not going to talk about every single thing you can do with Teams because that's just overwhelming. Our brains can only absorb a few pieces of information at a time, so we need to take it slow. And if you're new to Teams, this is going to be a good intro for you to start at least mentally grasping what it can do for you. I will tell you, once you do start using it, you'll be very pleased that you did. And if you can't tell, I'm a big Teams fan. So what is Microsoft Teams, AKA Teams? I'll pretty much refer to it as Teams from now on. I don't like saying the full name. It's just, I don't know, Teams is easier. So Teams is a program. It's free generally. As a matter of fact, I think they just have a free version. Microsoft puts it out. Most companies are hosting their email already with Microsoft. And with that, everybody gets a copy of Teams. And different subscription levels have different features, excuse me. But basically, Teams is just a program that Microsoft offers that allows you to do all these things. If you've used Slack, it's very similar to Slack, but better. You can collaborate as a team, you can communicate better, you can do video calls, you can do audio calls. They even allow you to do like live webinars in Teams to the public, just like you would do with Zoom. So it's a huge product. It allows you to do all kinds of things, but the bottom line to you is that you and your company can stay in touch and be productive no matter where you are, whether you're in COVID lockdown, back in the office, or a mixture. I don't know how this is all going to pan out, but you know, you can be in the office, out of the office, and all over the place, and still stay in touch with your team and collaborate and communicate. And you'll get the gist of this here in a minute. So think about Teams. These are the things you can use Teams for. Anything, if you just mentally go back to the office and go back over the last 20 years of working, everything you can do, every reason you had to put somebody in a meeting room, you can use Teams for. So you may have a project you're working on. You may have, you know, if you're private equity, you may be doing some due diligence or some discovery on a company. You could start a team for that. Or you could start a departmental team and have different sections in your team for each project you're working on. A company, we do this, we use Teams internally at Progressive IT. We have a company Teams instance, and we communicate in there to all of our employees about all kinds of different things. We share files. We have all kinds of things going on in there we won't even talk about today. You can also set up a team to collaborate with your customers, which is pretty interesting. So you can set up some internal communications for your customers who are using Teams, where you can pass files securely, which is important. You can pass those files, communicate with them on projects, and it's almost like instant messaging, chatting. It's that fast, and it's a very cool way to do it. I say cool a lot when I'm referring to technology. I'm sorry, I'm just very passionate about it. I guess it's a good thing. But I say cool when I really like things. I just think that's a good feature. Anything you can pull people together for, you can have a team for. So those are just some ideas to get you started. Here's a list of some of the other products that you may have heard of, especially when we first got into COVID. There's all this stuff in the news about Zoom, and I'm a big Zoom fan, by the way. Here's some of those. The biggest competitor to Teams is Slack. So Slack is the biggest, it's probably the closest thing you can get to Teams. Microsoft is competing head to head with them. I will tell you, I was a Slack user. We use Slack internally for our company, but there's some limitations with Slack. It's not as robust and secure and easy to manage and all kinds of other stuff. There's more options in Teams. So Slack is probably your biggest comparison here. These others at the bottom really aren't the same thing, even though in Teams you can make video calls, you can make audio calls, you can share your screen and things like that. But these little, like GoToMeeting, Skype, Zoom, Facebook, Workplace, I don't think that's going to last very long, but those are little one-offs. But the good news is if you're a big Zoom fan, like we are, still a huge Zoom fan, I am using Teams for video calls, but I can integrate Zoom within Teams and make Zoom calls right out of Teams if you just don't want to do this, the version that's included with Teams. So here are some of the benefits. Hint, hint, it does everything you need to do. This is a big slide, but basically what this is telling you is Teams can do pretty much everything you want to do, and it's secure and it's compliant because Microsoft's on the back end of all this. They store your data in their data centers. They're backing things up in a way that, so if a server goes down or whatever, it still works. You know, they do that for you. So we're working with Microsoft on the back end, and they, because it's Microsoft, integrate with just about everything they do. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint, Planner, OneNote, OneDrive, all the Office 365 suite, all the little apps and things that you can use can pretty much integrate with Teams. In addition to that, it does all kinds of other things too. They have a section called apps, connectors, and there's some other stuff that you can connect. Like we're connecting Zoom, for example, because I like Zoom and I want to keep it there. So we've brought that in. If you use SharePoint internally, some are doing it, some aren't. SharePoint is just a company website, basically, where you can share files and ideas. That integrates perfectly with Teams. Teams is really designed to help you work out of one screen almost. It's almost there. And Teams it's been developed over time. It's getting better and better and better. And like I had mentioned, the video conferencing part of it, I like Zoom. I think Zoom is a fully mature and secure product, and it's getting even more secure and better over time. Teams is catching up. So there's some things in Teams that I don't like that Zoom can do. Zoom is just easy to use. It's intuitive. I think Teams has a little bit of work to do there. That's just my opinion, but it's not bad. We use it internally for our weekly meetings and our little group huddles and things like that. You can use it for voice calling. You can even use it for full voice. If you want to just cancel your phone service and use Teams instead, it does that as well. So when I say it does everything, I mean, it's like pretty close to everything you need to do to run your business and stay in touch. And you can be in one screen almost all day. Some of you might find that boring, but here's the other thing too. Teams works pretty much on every device, unless you have a flip phone or a Linux computer, if anybody even knows what that is. Excuse me, I had to have some tea. You can use Teams on pretty much any device. So if you got Samsung, a Droid, Apple device, Windows machine, Mac, it doesn't matter. Teams works pretty well on everything. And the nice thing about that is you've got access to all this on the go. So if you're sitting at your desk and you have your laptop, or you just have your phone or your tablet, you can do all kinds of stuff with Teams, including editing your files, staying in touch, making calls everywhere you go on every platform. It's very cool. So let's talk about some of the Teams basics. What we're really going to cover here today, we're just going to glaze over a lot of the main components of Teams, and this is what Teams is in a nutshell. So, excuse me. Teams is made up of a couple things that you'll see a lot of if you start using it. One is the team, one or more teams. You can have multiple teams for multiple things. For example, you can have a company team, which is probably going to be the most common thing you'll do with Teams. You'll have one company team, and under that, you have what is called channels. And think about channels as just communication, okay? We'll get into this a little bit on the next slide. So Teams, think about Teams are when you want to pull a group of people together. Again, that meeting room scenario, if you want to pull them together for a meeting or a type of goal or a project or a company, they all have something in common, something where a group of people have something in common that you want to communicate about. And then under that, you create channels. You don't have to have a bunch of these. One channel is really all you need for the most part. Everybody gets one called general. And in that channel, you can have all this chatter about everything, or you can split that out into multiple channels. For example, I created one that we use to kind of commend everybody in our company. The ones who are doing well, we like bring attention to it there. We call it "You Are a Rock Star," and you can have announcements, you can have general, you can have projects or clients under there. I mean, it's really limitless depending on how you want to organize it and live out of it. But the two basic components are teams and channels. Okay, so now I'm going to get into a little demo, and hopefully this will go well. I'm going to share my screen. You're going to get a look at our teams. Okay, so this is actually our live teams here up at the top, Pro IT team. I've created this sample team. We're going to work out of that this morning. What you're seeing here, you see two teams. One's called Pro IT team. The other one's called sample team. And under that, I have a channel called general, okay? So within a team, you can't really do anything if you click team. It just expands the little channels you've created. But if I click general, I'm in the general channel right now. And as you can see, here's some options. And as you chat and do things, these icons go away. So I'm going to chat and see if I can get Billy's attention. I'm going to say, hey, Billy. And see what he says. Hopefully he's on and he'll reply. And I'll show you some options here. And it's got a very familiar feel too. You'll notice we have emoticons here, so I can say, yeah, that was a great post, Mario. I can reply to myself if I want. Hi. Oh yeah, Billy's live. Hey, still here. Okay, so notice within here, so I've created just a post. I can start it down here. It's just easy as that. You can just type it. There's a whole bunch of options down here we're not going to get into, which you should explore. But that's the basics. You have a channel and you have people in your team that you can chat with, okay? So I just chatted with Billy. I can also do very similar things that you're used to in social media. You can @mention somebody, so I can say, hey, @Billy Green. And I can press enter. And what that will do is it's gonna make sure he gets a notification on his side, just like you would if you're using LinkedIn or Facebook. So it's very social media-ish. And it's the learning curve with Teams is very minimal once you grasp what a team is and what a channel is. Couple other things I want to take bring to your attention. You can notice up here, there's some tabs in each channel. Each channel has its own little set of tabs, and tabs are just simply a way to do some things with that channel. So this is specific to this channel. If we were going to share files, for example, I'll click this. I could share some files here. I could upload them. I could even sync them to my computer. I can do all kinds of stuff. I can also, don't get overwhelmed, I can do all this as a tab too. And this is where I talk about the integrations it has. I'm not going to even stay there too long because it's overwhelming, but you can do all kinds of stuff. Over on the left-hand side, you have some options too, and this is all customizable. These are the defaults. If you click activity, you'll see everything that's going on in every team because it gets really noisy over time. I want to look at the time, make sure I'm not going over. Over time, it gets really noisy. And you'll get these alerts. You're like, what the heck's happening? And you want to see just the last thing that happened. You can go here to activity, and it's like everything that's happened. And you can just see the ones that you haven't acknowledged yet. You can also chat with somebody directly. I've got my wife on here I was chatting with. She's not on yet, but that's just an example. And once you have somebody in a chat, you still have all the options down here, but look up here too. Within a chat, I can just go right to a video call with them. I can just do an audio call. I can share my screen with them right out of the gate. And just like a channel, there's options for your chat as well. So I can share files with just Andrea or just Toby or just Billy, or I can go here. I've got a chat going with Billy and one of our guys, Michael. I can share files with them. And all this is unique to just that channel. It's pretty neat stuff. You can integrate your calendars with it. You can go and just make plain phone calls. This is a link to all your files, and it integrates with things like OneDrive. So all your OneDrive files that you're already using are accessible right here. So Microsoft's done a really good job of just making it all available to you. Down here, I'm going to get out of this, get back here. I want you to notice the apps just briefly. So apps, this is all the stuff you can do. And I'm scrolling down, and it's it's filling and filling. These are all the things that can integrate within Teams. And that's all I'm going to do there. Click the help button down here in the bottom left. And this is a very good resource. If you're just getting into Teams, you want to get a little more knowledge about channels and all that stuff and how to do more, click on help and go to training, help training. And it takes you to this page. And there's little short videos, and they're just 2 or 3 minutes long. Some of them aren't even a minute, and they show you how to do specific tasks. And I'll show you some other resources here at the end as well. But that is a great place to go just to get the basics down. There's a lot you could learn, but just as somebody who's going to use Teams, that's a good place to start. And again, this is just covering the basics. So I'm back in Teams. I'm in my sample team. I just want to show you how to create another channel. So you've got your team, say this is your company, you had this one, created for you, and you want to create one called projects. Okay. So you just click on the ellipses here, add channel, and then you call it projects. Okay. And this is where we put projects. Okay. All right. Everybody's got access to that. You can also let everybody know in your team that the new channel has been there. Normally you'll want to do that. I'll just say add. And that's it. So now you've got a new channel and you can start talking to people about whatever projects you've got going on. And that keeps the chatter controlled. That's why you want to, another reason why you want to create channels, because it keeps your chatter controlled. So people who are involved with the project will get notified about that. People who are in the general chat will get that. And you'll see it gets a little bit noisy over time. I'm going to show you one little tiny advanced feature. If you have a company team site and you want to create a channel, but you don't really want everybody to have it, that may happen. So you just click here, add channel, and there's another option here called private. And this will allow you to create a locked down channel where only you, say management or finance wanted to just chat among themselves. This is a way to do that within Teams under the same team. So you don't have to create a new team or anything like that. You can just create a new channel. Let me see if I covered everything I wanted to, because that's a lot of information. The one other thing I wanted to show you was how to create a team. If you look down here, Because sometimes you may have a company team. You can create your own teams, even if your company's not doing it, by the way. So if you're working with a team and your company doesn't really support teams, you can have your little group do it, assuming everything's set up on the back end, which I think by default is usually true. Anyway, down here, join or create a team. So say you have a project you're working on, maybe you're doing some due diligence, or this is for your customers or whatever. So you just click on join or create team, then create team, build the team from scratch. We're going to say this is a private team, okay? So not everybody in the org can do it. And then I can say test and test. This is a team, remember, this is not a channel. Okay, that's how easy. I feel so good. Okay, and I'm going to add a member. So I'm going to add Billy because I trust Billy. He's working with me on this. I'm going to say add. He'll get a notification that he's been added to the team. That's how easy it is. So me and Billy are now in this test team, and we have one channel. See how general was created by default? It gives you this general channel right out of the gate. And now we can, hey, Billy's on. Cool. And I'm going to say, whoa, I'm surprised. Okay. And there's all kinds of emoticons and things you can do there. Great. Thanks. You see how quick it is too. And the cool thing about this is no matter where you are, you can keep this kind of communication going. And it can be on your device. You can get up and we'll go to lunch, have Teams on your phone, and it'll alert you if you want to keep this conversation going while you're at lunch. There's also options up here under your profile that you'll want to check out. A lot of options in there, but you can set your do not disturb. Like if you want to go to lunch and not be bothered, you can go and do those things in Teams. And that way you can have notifications when you want, because Lord knows we get enough communications, huh? All right, so I'm going to swap back over to, that was the basics, the basics. So we're not getting deep, remember. I'm going to go back to the presentation here. Sorry, a little kludgy. All right, so hopefully you see that word demo on your screen. So some things to keep in mind. I think we're doing good on time, 9:22. Things to keep in mind. By default, there's some things that go on. For example, I mentioned you can invite people from the outside of your organization to come in and communicate with you in Teams. That's called guest access. And by default, that's not enabled for security reasons, because you don't just want the whole world to come and be able to have access to your team. Or say you're a company and you have a company team site and you want to keep all that confidential. Obviously, you don't want your employees being able to go out and invite guests to your chat, to your channels and things. So there's a reason for that, but it is possible to invite guests, and you can invite them and set it up securely. You may need to talk to your IT department or your IT consulting company about that. There's some things in Teams that you may need help with. Also keep in mind that Teams is huge. It's a big product. So start slow. If you're interested in trying this out, just start with a team and a channel, and invite a couple people and just use it for a week and start exploring. Go in, look at the help, and go from there. And I think you'll find that you're going to love it and get kind of addicted to it and not want to stop using it. So if you're viewing this live, we're going to have this recorded as well, but if you're viewing this live, you may want to take a couple pictures. The next screen is just some resources. I mentioned one of them on the bottom right, the Teams help that's built in, but you can also Google this. If you Google Microsoft Teams video training, just like that at the top, you'll find the site that has, and there's the URL at the bottom. That's why I said take a picture if you want to really type all that out. This will take you to these short videos. It's very similar to what's in help, but it's just a different way to get there. There's also a lot of videos on YouTube about Teams, learning the basics, getting the advanced features if you want them. A lot of companies have done that. I think Microsoft's probably got their videos out there too. Just a lot of short, useful resources. And here's our shameless plug. If you're not a client, if you're a client, we do this for you. We'll configure your Teams. So if you're a client and don't have that now and want us to get in there and do some tweaks like add guest access or set up your org or whatever. But if you're not, we're giving away 500 Pro IT bucks. And you can use that towards Microsoft Teams setup. So we can consult with you. And I'll tell you, $500 will pretty much set you up if you just want the basics. It doesn't take very long. Once we can get in and set up the team, grant access, we can do the basics for you and give you what you need, show you how to, we can create the channels that you want, talk to you about your design. It's pretty quick. So I think $500 covers the whole thing for most companies, unless you're doing some advanced things. But it's possible you could need some help with this, and we're here if you do. So if you are interested in doing that, just send me an email at info@progressiveitsolutions.com, and in the subject line put $500 with an exclamation point, because I'll be watching for those. And when I see those come in, I'll contact you with more information about setting up a Zoom call, and we can talk about, Zoom call, not Teams yet. We'll set up a call, and then we'll talk about how to do that. So this is the point in our webinar where we're going to take a few questions. It's 9:26. I'm okay with going a few minutes over, but if you do have to bail out, that's fine. I just wanted to let you know that we got opportunity for some questions. Let me see. I see some stuff in chat, I think. Q&A. Okay, I'm in the Q&A section. So if you've got answers, be sure and put it in your Q&A, in the Q&A section of your screen. So the first question is, how much does Teams cost? We kind of glazed over that. It's free, but each version has some different feature options, but you can go get it for free. And most people already have Microsoft Office 365 subscriptions. I don't know if that's too technical or not, but basically you're hosting your email with Microsoft, and most people are doing all kinds of other stuff, and they don't even know they have these options, but it's usually free. And so that answers that question. They've made it free. It used to be all paid, but they have a free version now to compete with Slack. So you can get it and there's no cost. How can I use Teams to work on my files in OneDrive? That's a good question. So if you remember back on the left-hand side of the screen in Teams, there was an icon called Files. And if I had clicked on Files, it would automatically show my OneDrive files. And from within there, I can work on those files. I can bring them up to Teams. That's what you'd be doing if you were working in Teams. You'd probably be sharing some of your files. So that's where you would go to get it. So left-hand side on that little toolbar, Files, and then under OneDrive to get there. So yes, it does integrate. Pretty much every app they have integrates with Teams. Can we use Zoom with Teams? I think I answered that. Yes, you can, and I love it. Because the video in Teams is a little rough. For example, when you have a meeting in Teams right now, I think there's some limitations still. They're changing it all the time, but there's a limitation on how many people you can see on the screen at once. So Zoom has what's called a gallery view, where you can see a bunch of people, maybe, I don't know what the limit is, probably based on your screen size, but a ton of people. And I think Teams had some limitations there. So yes, you can, and it's just one of the apps you can add, and it's individualized too. You can just roll it out for you. It doesn't have to be a company-wide thing. Let's see. Can guest access be set up for only one person, or once you enable it, can any team member add any guests they want to add? That's a good question. So yes, it's very granular, and that's one of the things I like about Teams is you can go in, and this is where it gets a little advanced, because remember, guest access is not enabled right out of the gate. So by default, you have to have somebody in IT usually to go in and turn that on, because you want to do it correctly. See, it's very granular too. So by default, and I don't know what it is today, but users can't even load Teams. That's how secure they make it at Microsoft. So as an admin, we go in the background and we add these services for everybody, but we can turn Teams on and off if an organization doesn't want. Say there's a compliance issue and they don't want people chatting at all, and they want to control how communications and files are moved around. They may not even let you deploy Teams at your company. So that's one of the things that's beautiful about it, is because security and compliance is foremost in everything you do in your company and technology, and Microsoft recognizes that. That's why they have those controls in the background that allow us to get that. So to answer your question, yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff. I'm pretty sure I can go in and say only certain members can do guest access as well. Last time I looked, it was pretty granular. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see, Don's got a question. Zoom, does Zooms integrate with Teams? Okay, yeah, I think that I pretty much covered that one. Blake, he says, can this entirely replace my phone conference call line to bring internal and external personnel together? Yes, that's the answer. And that's one of the really cool things. And I will just share with you, you just have to add a little bit to your subscription. It's just a voice add-on. I think the pricing is about 20 bucks a user. It's a VoIP or voice over IP internet-based phone system, which is, if you're on this call, hear me now, it's something you want in your business because it handles disasters without a problem. So if you've got an old style phone system in your company and it's on the wall in some room, that's bad, because if the building's unavailable or the power goes out or anything happens there, you don't have phones usually. New phone systems, almost everybody buys what's called a VoIP system, and Microsoft offers that too. So yes, Blake, you could replace all your phones or you could replace your phone service with Teams. It does that. So I think we're done with the questions. So I really appreciate you guys joining us today. Again, if you want to take advantage of the 500 Pro IT bucks, here's the link, or here's the information. Just shoot me an email, info@progressiveitsolutions.com. Put 500 bucks exclamation in your subject line, and we will be in touch with you and we'll set that up. And thanks everybody. If you want to copy these slides, we can do that, but I'm going to post the recordings on YouTube. And I'll make a post on LinkedIn about that and send it to the clients as well. So you can just watch the recording again and freeze the screen or whatever you want to do. But let me know. Thanks guys. Have a good day and stay safe.